Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. This is a new presentation from www.central-mosque.com and the Humble Heart YouTube channel. We're going to discuss Venezuela, Iran, and Greenland, the geopolitics of 2026 in this episode of Making Sense. Let's proceed. So, today, as we understand America, living here, it is deeply, deeply divided. Particularly a few days ago when Renee Good, this woman, 37-year-old white woman in Minnesota, she was shot down in broad daylight by federal agents. She was a white woman, 37-year-old. This is the glove compartment of her Honda Pilot, stuffed with stuffed animals. She had 3 kids. And this, even on the extreme right of the Republican Party or the neo-Nazis, this has really, really divided opinion because no matter how much they hate immigrants and stuff, they don't want to get white people shot in the streets of America, white women, white mothers shot in the streets of America. So as it stands, all sides of the American society and all polls actually demonstrate and show it are deeply, deeply upset about what is happening. Nobody wanted Trump and this GOP and this Republican government to take it this far. So we have a split, divided, deeply partisan society. So a lot of people outside of America think that basically, hey, we're going to have elections in this year, 2026, about the Congress, or we're going to have the presidential elections in 2028, and basically the Democrats may come to power, or someone against Trump will come to power, and we will all live happily ever after. That is not going to happen. The divide, the partisan divide, the bias that's been let loose in the American society, it is deeply problematic, and that's not going to go away in either in the 2026 or 2028 or one of the near future election cycles. It doesn't matter who comes to power. The demons have been let loose are really, really powerful. However, there is an issue. Looking at this as a glass full, being a positive guy scenario, is both the right and left are combining in America because the infrastructure in America is crumbling. Basic needs, healthcare, education, etc., is not being provided. A lot of people are struggling with their daily lives, and both people on the right and on the left are beginning to ask the question, hey, is this really an America first government, or is it an Israel first government, right? And this sentiment you can clearly see, and this is the first time I'm witnessing it in my lifetime in America. A lot of people outside of America that WhatsApp me and ask me questions, say, hey, we don't see anything happening on the world, anything changing on the world stage. That's not the point. What is happening is deeply, shifting the American society. For the first time, in my lifetime, and even before that, if you read history, is the Americans are beginning to question the undying American support for Israel. And I believe, and it's hard to predict the future, and Allah Ta'ala knows best, in the 2028 election cycle, there's gonna be somebody who's going to stand up and question that and say, I am standing on a platform that if I'm elected, I am going to cut the aid to Israel. Now, people who are outside of America are naive to believe that, let's say that somebody in 2028 stands up on that platform, promise that they're going to cut aid to Israel. So do you think things are going to change overnight? No, they're not. Okay, for 75 years, each and every layer of the American society, whether it is civil society, whether it's state government, federal government, are deeply entrenched into Israel first policy. Whether it is the police, whether it's the churches, whether it is just fire departments, whatever, right? And even if someone comes on that, it's going to take America decades. Even if there's a genuine push to pull away from Israel, it's going to take America decades to be able to do that. So the change might happen at a political level, and it is happening. A lot of Americans are beginning to question that. I am telling you that. Whether you see that as the impact in the American foreign policy or not yet, we see some glimpses of it, but it's not widespread, but it is happening in American society. Let's now talk about Venezuela. So, in my last episode, I discussed Venezuela, and I said this is the extension of the Monroe Doctrine, where America does not want anybody, whether it's China, Russia, or anybody else, to flex their muscle in America's backyard. And one of the reasons everybody keeps talking about is oil, it's oil, it's oil, and I said yes, it is one of the reasons. But since my episode, this has become clear that President Trump had meetings with several oil executives, and Exxon CEO particularly said that Venezuela is uninvestable because, as I talked about in my last episode, that because the infrastructure is crumbling and it's going to take billions in investment to bring the infrastructure up to spec to be able to extract that oil out. Now, let me tell you how it's pretty basic by how oil prices work. You have the OPEC oil producing countries, like Saudi Arabia and Russia and so on and so forth, which Venezuela is also part of. America, most of the oil comes from West Texas, and it's shale oil. So they have to maintain, both OPEC and America have to maintain oil in what is called a sweet spot. A sweet spot means that if anything above that, great, we're making money. Anything below that, it costs money to get oil out of the ground. And if it's below that sweet spot price, then it's actually more expensive to get oil out. So even if there's a massive investment that goes into Venezuela right now, and somehow miraculously we're able to extract billions of barrels of oils, that means there's going to be a glut of oil in the international market. And when there's more supply than demand, price nosedives. You don't want that to happen, right? So, if you're over the age of 40 and you've seen all these, American interventions in Iraq or in Afghanistan and so on, or recently in Venezuela, the special forces go in, they do a fantastic operation, they kidnap whoever. So in this case, the president of Venezuela, get him out of the ground, whatever, put him in New York, right? Now what? That's the hard part. That's where things keep failing. So what Venezuela has done, what you have to understand something from a national sovereignty perspective. If somebody is a citizen of the country, in terms of politics, some people support the government, some people don't. However, when you go in there and you violate the borders of that country, you kidnap the president, then as an automatic reaction, it doesn't matter whether you support the government or don't support the government, very strong sentiments come out. And that's exactly what's happening in Venezuela, where militias are being activated and people are being given weapons, and they're searching through cars looking for Americans. So what President Trump did in Venezuela, as I said in the last episode, is just pure gangsterism, right? There's no right about it. There's no debate whether it is legal. It's not. It's illegal. You've gone into a sovereign nation and kidnapped the president. Whether it's people's right whether they're like the president or not, right? So as a reaction, emotions are being hardened all over South Central America. And that's because America has just gone in there like a gangster and kidnapped a president. So there's going to be a blowback from various countries, whether it's Cuba, Mexico, whatever. They may not be powerful enough to be able to do that individually, but they can make America hurt, right? And this kind of unilateral action what President Trump has taken in Venezuela with very low returns. We haven't seen any oil barrels come in. We haven't seen, so America going and robbing Venezuela of its oil, somehow, if it's even possible, it's not gonna be good for the price of oil for the shale producers in America. So why is Trump done that? We're going to discuss that in a few slides. So let's talk about Greenland. A lot of people ask the question saying, why is Trump after Greenland? So this idea of America taking over Greenland is not new. This was a fringe idea in the 70s. It was discussed by think tanks and stuff in the 80s and 90s. The reason it's become important today is because, as you know, the ice around Greenland is melting. Because the ice is melting, two things are happening. Number one, the shipping lanes, which were not accessible because of ice, are now becoming visible, and they can, ships can sail through that water because the ice is not there. So some of the routes are shorter and economically viable. That's reason number one. Number two, because the ice is melting, the lot of resources, oil, gas, and rare earth metals and stuff can be gone in there and extracted. That's reason number two. Reason number three is security, because Russia right there around the Arctic has its missile bases and so on, and America can go and actually check some of the Russian power. So that is the reason. So this isn't an idea that Trump came up with. This idea has been around in the American security think tanks and domains for a while. So in my opinion, consider this done. America is going to take Greenland. It's a done deal. The only thing is we don't know how that's going to happen, right? There are a number of ways that can happen. Denmark already has an agreement with America, so American forces are already deployed in Greenland. So this could be extended, right? A blank check can be given to America to deploy whatever they want, however they want, and take over as much as they want through a peace deal. That's one thing. Secondly, there are around 56,000 citizens in Greenland. American can go pay somebody, and the figure that I've seen banded about is $10,000 to $100,000 per person. Pocket change for America to get Greenland. They can do that. But there is, if you look at the polls, there isn't a lot of support. People don't want to get paid and bought out. The third one is America goes in because Greenland is sparsely populated. It's hard to navigate and live and so on. America can go and invest heavily by building roads, by building factories, infrastructure, and there's a big support for that, because let's say if America builds a lot of factories and puts up infrastructure, it can woo people by its dollar power. So instead of paying money to people, invest and take de facto control. The fourth option is a compact of free association. This is an agreement that America already has with some islands like the Marshall Islands, etc. And again, there is support for that. And the last is to invade. Now, the last one, obviously, this is going to be repercussions for NATO and Europe, but it is the easiest to execute. The reason being is there are thousands upon thousands of American soldiers already there, right? But I've put this in red, although it's the easiest to execute because neither Denmark nor Greenland have any resources to be able to fight American military. That's not going to happen. However, the political ramifications of this are going to be huge. But as I said, consider this a done deal. America is going to get Greenland. You just have to worry about how that's going to happen. Now let's switch focus to Iran. A lot of people who talk about Iran don't know the history of Iran, the population of Iran, and the geography of Iran. Iran is a huge country, and there is tremendous distances between its major cities. Like Mashhad is here, Zahedan, this is on Pakistani border, close to Pakistani border. Tabriz is in Azerbaijan. Tehran is right here. So because of the huge geography and 92 million people, it is extremely difficult to invade Iran and to put boots on the ground. So I've put that option as the last. Believe me, this is going to make Iraq or Afghanistan look like a cakewalk if you invade Iran. Iran is extremely, extremely difficult. Much larger population, huge area, huge terrain. So the options for America is air war, cyber attack, which they tried all that, popular uprising, which is happening, or decapitation strike of Khamenei or the Republican Guard commanders and stuff. Now, what is interesting that's happening in Iran is the popular uprising and stuff are regularly arresting Mossad Israeli agents, and they're Indian citizens or Afghan citizens. Iran has woken up to that, and if you read some of the news that is coming out of Iran, they are arresting Afghan and Indian citizens who are actually Israeli Mossad citizens. I keep saying in my videos, there will come a point where there will be boots on the ground in the Middle East. If not Iran, in close proximity to it, it's going to have to happen, because none of these choices that you see in the green, they may be easier, they're not going to be able to capture or control Iran. That is just simply not going to happen. So why is America acting like this? Venezuela, Greenland, Iran. The reason being is, number one, Israeli failure. Israel, their doctrine, and I've discussed this in several videos, is overwhelming response. They want to overwhelmingly respond to disarm, destroy, disengage whoever does anything to Israel. That's been an abject failure in the case of Hamas. Hamas is still there and not disarmed. Iran is still standing. So it's a failure. That doctrine has failed. Number two, America is a declining power. Declining powers always project strength because they want to hide the fact that they're declining power. There are serious domestic issues in America today with people's health, with America's infrastructure. So Donald Trump is trying to divert attention to foreign issues like Venezuela and Iran and Greenland and so on to take the attention away. And lastly, Donald Trump's popularity is epic lows in the negatives. So what he's trying to do is deflect attention. So America is becoming a gangster because they want to hide all these failures. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.